Next up, for one of our speakers here, we have a fearless voice in conservative media and a passionate defender of liberty. Chris Salcedo is a veteran broadcaster, author, and host of the Chris Salcedo Show on Newsmax. Known for his no-nonsense take on politics, culture, and constitutional freedoms, Chris pulls no punches when it comes to defending the American way of life. Please welcome Chris Salcedo.
Hey, folks. Hey, somebody flag the folks out there in the hallway. Come on in. I got something to say. Come on in. Don't be bashful. Come on. I was struggling, believe it or not. I was struggling. I talk for a living. I got the radio show. I got the television show. I got the podcast. And I was saying, what am I going to tell to these people? I'm preaching to the choir, for goodness sake. What am I going to tell them? I said, well, why reinvent the wheel? I cover news, I cover information every single day, and we push back on several issues, constitutional issues, government issues, every single day. So just go with what you know, what we've been talking about. So let me first start off by saying, last year I was so honored to be here for the first annual gathering of Gun Owners of America. And I told her, I'm going to condense my entire 20-minute speech from last year into a couple of minutes. The reason why I was so proud is because everybody knows what's happening with the other organization. The corruption, yada, yada, yada. What broke the back for me, folks, I got to tell you, I come from the great state of Texas. I am a liberty-loving Latino. Do not confuse me with loudmouth leftist Latinos. I love my country. I love my state, the United States of America, and the great state of Texas. And sadly, I have to battle not only leftists and Marxists and Democrats who are openly leftists and Marxists and Democrats. I've got to battle fake Republicans who are all too willing to sacrifice you, your rights, your family's future to please the aforementioned leftist Marxist Democrats. They prize their relationships with Democrats over defending you. So one example of this was the other organization decided they would endorse a guy by the name of Dade Phelan. At the time, he was the Speaker of the Texas House. And this man was an enabler, and I'm not going to bore you with Texas politics, but suffice it to say, the reason why Republicans get elected to speakerships in Texas is because they get a sufficient amount of Democrats, almost all of them, to vote for them, and then a bunch of sellout Republicans, and then you've got a so-called Republican speaker. That was Dade Phelan. Now we've got a guy in Texas, Dusty the Democrat Burrows. You know, he was elected with 49 Democrats and 36 fake Republicans. What does that make him? Yeah, a rhino? Well, yeah. It also makes him a Democrat. The very same people who are trying to steal your constitutional rights on a daily basis. And the other organization endorsed Dade Phelan, who was elected in the same mechanism. And I said, and I called up the other organization because my good buddy Grant Stinchfield, I joined the other organization live on the air with him. And then they fell to pot. And then I called them up. I said, what are you doing endorsing a guy who enables the very same people, the very same cancer, the very same individuals who are stealing our Second Amendment rights, among others?
Well, he's very good on paper on the Second Amendment.
He's enabling socialists. Come on. Really? He's giving power to people who want to take away our rights. So I was out. And it just so happened I was invited to speak at Gun Owners of America last year. They came into my life when I was in desperate need of an organization that did not compromise and wasn't so stupid as to bury their heads in the sand and not understand the political reality we all live in. Gun Owners of America, in short, gets it. Now, I got a collection of stories I've been following that I think buttress the point that I want to express to all of you here today. I was covering one of these incidents I'm about ready to talk to you about. And Todd Starnes, my good buddy Todd Starnes, already hit on one of these stories. But I got an email from a left-winger. I'm sorry, here's what it said. Quote, "Real men don't need guns and don't run from opposition," end quote. First off, a real man does have firearms, does understand the nature of the Second Amendment as a right of self-defense because, and I will tell you, as a real man, I will defend me and mine. How many men in this audience will defend you and yours? Now you took me right where I wanted to go. Because this man who was emailing me, what he was really after was disarming women. In my opinion, because he's a leftist, he's a Democrat, he's a coward, as they all are. They're about disarming women. Because what does that firearm do? When a man, one of the stories I'm going to cover will illustrate this beautifully. When a man comes in and wants to get rough with a woman, what is the great equalizer? A damn firearm. You're right. So as the father of little girls, who are not so little anymore, boy, am I getting old. As a father of girls, damn right my babies know how to shoot. Let me give you some stories that I think are going to help me buttress my point today. Illegal alien shoots an ICE officer in New York. In left-wing dominated, Democrat-dominated New York, where the general population is disarmed because it'll make you safer. So the only people who are armed are the police, and of course they have all the restrictions placed on them, and of course the criminal element, and an illegal alien to boot. An illegal alien who was allowed to break into our country got his hand on a firearm and shot an ICE officer in the face in New York. There's a moral to this story. I'm getting to it. While I'm speaking of New York, and I've got a couple of examples from New York, how many of you are familiar with the name Dexter Taylor? Anybody know who Dexter Taylor is? Dexter Taylor is a black man who had undertaken a time-honored tradition in our country of manufacturing his own firearms for his own personal use. That ability to do so has been available to Americans before we were America. But New York says, no, we're not going to allow you to do that. He's in jail right now serving 10 years for undertaking a constitutional right that New York was, I'm sorry, violating our Constitution and taking away from him. But remember, historically speaking, these leftists, these Democrats, these Marxists, what was the first thing they did to freed slaves? Took their guns. Because that's what leftists do. That's what racists do. And I can tell you for a fact that all the racists I've ever bumped into in my life are Democrats, are left-wingers. Because they believe in divisive tactics. Divide and conquer, that's their mantra. That's what they do. And I think that everybody in this audience, everybody that's watching me right now, ought to reject every last divisive Democrat in our country. And reject with all of your might and all of your soul their efforts to take away your God-given rights. Mr. Miranda spoke beautifully about God-given rights, and they are. And it's no accident that our political opposition are a bunch of godless individuals. I haven't bumped into a Democrat that believes in our Second Amendment right of self-defense, much less our First Amendment right of free expression. Hell, they're on college campuses trying to take that right away from us too. Remember Dexter Taylor. I'm coming back to New York. Let's go to Chicago. Illegal alien in Chicago killed a woman, allegedly, decapitated her, corrupted her body, kept it in a container of bleach on his property. By the way, anybody else in this room go, wait a minute, an illegal alien had property? How is that allowed? Illegal alien decapitated a 37-year-old woman. A judge knowing that ICE wanted to have a word or two with this illegal alien, said, I'm going to let him go because I don't want ICE to deport the illegal alien who decapitated the woman, who, if she had had a firearm at her disposal, may have been able to save her life. See, and that goes right back to what I was telling you before. The reason why the left wants to disarm all of you, wants to disarm our wives, our daughters, our persons, is so their little criminal element, whether they be illegal aliens, whether they be the criminals they unleash onto the streets, they can have free run at us with no opposition. Where were the authorities to save this woman? ICE did catch up with this man 3 weeks later. He's in custody now. You'll all be happy to know. My buddy Todd Starnes mentioned Traverse City, Michigan. I'm going to read this because there was a lot of detail here. Mass stabbing at a Walmart in a supercenter there. Derek Perry, Matthew K. Matthew K. was a former Marine. 2 men now credited with confronting and apprehending a 42-year-old suspect who stabbed 11 people. Matthew K. was the Marine. He took anything, always thinking the Marines, anything he could get his hands on, told his little girl, stay over here, took the grocery cart, threw it at the assailant, knocked him on his butt, and then here comes Mr. Perry with a firearm, holding him at bay until the police could arrive. A good guy with a gun. You know what? Nobody except for us at Newsmax and some other conservative media reported on the facts of that story. The rest of the biased left-wing press didn't highlight the fact that a good guy with a gun saved the day. And they won't. You've got to do that research. You've got to tune out ABC, NBC, CBS, fake news. You've got to tune them out because they'll tell you, oh, what a tragedy that stabbing was. Let's outlaw knives. That's what they'll tell you. Hey, where's Senator John Cornyn from my great state of Texas collaborating with leftists to outlaw knives? Because he's collaborated with Democrats to attack directly our Second Amendment. John Cornyn, that's right. A Texas senator collaborated with leftists to force you and me in the state of Texas to fund unconstitutional red flag laws in blue states. With friends like John Cornyn, who needs Democrats? In my home state of Texas, a woman was standing in front of her own Ring doorbell, calling her husband. How many of you saw this? She was in a bath towel. That's all she had. When the criminals busted into her home with her babies in her home, she was in the bath. She was stark naked. She stands up, pleads with the assailants, don't hurt my babies. Has to go outside wrapped in a bath towel to call her husband. Call the police. As with the previous stories, as you all know, folks, when seconds count, the police are minutes away. The Democrat Party, their allies like John Cornyn and Dade Phelan and other fake Republicans want to make sure that all we have to throw at nut jobs with a gun or a knife are our bodies or the bodies of our wives. If they're allowed to win the day, that scenario is going to play itself out. And that happened in Texas. That scenario will play itself out all over this country to the delight of leftists. They think that the greatest tragedy is that you can actually defend yourself from them. The Second Amendment, beautifully multifaceted, and guards against so much. Government tyranny, just one of those things. The tyranny of criminals. The tyranny of the left-wing mind. The Second Amendment does so much more. And don't get me wrong, I love to find a weapon that just feels so dang good in my hand. And I go, but this is the trigger pull. It's crisp. It's great. Don't get me wrong, I love the aesthetics. I love the beauty. I love the technology behind our firearms industry. I really do. And I can appreciate it. Didn't always. I was born and raised in San Diego, the People's Republic of California. And we just heard from Mr. Miranda, California, New York, these states are directly attacking the U.S. Constitution. And you know who doesn't give a damn? The so-called Republican Party.
Well, they're going to do what they're going to do.
Really? That's how much love and devotion you have for your voters? Really? That's how much love and devotion you have for the founding document of this country? The U.S. Constitution is not a suggestion. It is chains on government. What? To keep you free. So, I really wanted everybody to know and understand, in particular with that situation in Texas. That's the vision the Democrat Party and their enablers in the Republican Party have for all of you. You, bare naked, no ability to defend yourself, you and yours. Back to New York. Recent story. New York shooter gets a long rifle, steps out in the middle of New York, walks through a plaza, goes into a high-rise building and shoots up, I guess his target was the National Football League, shoots up the joint. The police in New York, nobody stopped this guy. They've got how many of you seen the video? He just walked right on up. Wait a minute, where's the Democrat system? Where's all their gun restrictions that were supposed to protect us? Where is it? New York is a left-wing state. Republicans don't exist in New York. Did it protect anybody? Did their vaunted gun restrictions protect anybody? What could have stopped this guy? A good guy with a gun. You're damned right. But guess what? They're not allowed to exist in New York. This guy could have been confronted by a citizen in Traverse City, Michigan, with a firearm saying, "Excuse me, sir, where are you going? Where are you going?" But nobody got in his way. Nobody said anything to this guy. He goes into a highly secured building and starts shooting it up. Got to the 33rd floor. Look at how well Democrat restrictions on your gun rights protect us. Look at how well they're doing. How many more of our citizens have to die before we recognize that the Democrats don't know what the hell they're doing? How many more of our people are we willing to sacrifice on their altar of stupidity, I ask? See, I knew I was going to have too much material because I'm almost out of time. The moral of the speech. Whether it's Dylan Roof, whether it's Spring, Texas, whether it's the New York shooter, the common theme throughout. Every single time in these mass shootings, and this is something the biased press won't cover because A, they don't have the intellect to cover it, or B, they're agenda-driven and they don't care about your rights. The moral of the story is government will always fail. If you hear anything from any of the speakers or understand what I'm talking to you about today is government will always fail. The founding fathers of this country knew and understood this. And they had a precaution for that. You know what that precaution was? You know what the contingency plan was? You. You are the first responder. You protect you and yours. You protect your family, your community. You do this. Why? Because you're a free and sovereign citizen. Why? Because you are an American. And anyone who wants to take that responsibility and that right from you, in your liberty-loving Latinos opinion, is not an American. Government will always fail. The next time it does, you had better have a firearm. Folks, before I leave you, Todd Starnes is really good at this. he kind of slips it in there between past the mustard and past the ketchup, and you don't even realize he's talking to you about, I got a book coming out I thought I'd mention. The Rise of the Liberty-Loving Latino. That's what it's called. And it is the greatest political revolution we have seen in this country since the foundation of the Republican Party. And it chronicles how, and it's centered around, just as in Todd Starnes' book, my interview with President Trump. I can't convey to you, and I was trying to convey it to Todd, when you're sitting in the room with President Trump, it's just different. You see him on television, you see, what he does. When you're sitting with him, it's just different. You get it. You get an overwhelming sense you're sitting in the presence of a man who's not only great, but is looking out for us. And frankly, with the majority of the makeup in Congress, I don't get that vibe from the majority of them. So the book surrounds that experience and encapsulates that experience. So, comes out in December. It's a perfect Christmas gift. I hope you guys can find me on Newsmax. Find the radio show, the Chris Salcedo Show. Listen to the podcast, Salcedo Storm Podcast. And for God's sakes, if you remember anything from this talk, government always fails. When it does, you had better be armed. Folks, God's blessings to each and every one of you. Thank you.